If you feel tired, suffer from brain fog, or elevated stress levels, your breathing might be part of the reason. Most people breathe inefficiently, which limits oxygen to your brain and muscles, increasing stress hormones and even affects your mood and focus. In this video, I will show you how to train your breath so you can improve your health, mental state and performance. Hi, my name is Kitaro. I'm a breathwork and a mindfulness coach with a 20-year background in traditional martial arts and movement. You take about 20,000 breaths every single day, but if your breathing is off, that's 20,000 signals telling your body something is wrong. I will teach you how to understand the mechanics of better breathing and use it as a tool to shift your state, physically and mentally. Breathing has this unique character that it happens automatically, but we can also take control over it. When we breathe automatically, it is controlled by our autonomic nervous system, which governs many vital processes in our body, like our heartbeat, thermoregulation, digestion, and hormonal release. But it is also responsible for our arousal level in our body, meaning how alert, energetic, focused, relaxed, or stressed we feel. Aware of it or not, we constantly scan the world for potential threats or treats. These signals trigger the autonomic nervous system to direct our body and mind towards either action or towards rest, digestion, and recovery. But these hardwired processes were built for a time when we were hunter-gatherers. In today's modern age, it can backfire. The effect of this is that we are constantly stressed over things that shouldn't stress us that much and are unable to relax and recover, sacrificing healthy habits like exercise because we falsely assume we need to rest on this couch and watch this Netflix series. By deliberately controlling your breathing, you can influence your autonomic nervous system. So, through breathing, I can counter the psychological impact of stress responses. But how can I do that? Well, just like physical exercise too, we need to train our muscles. And for breathing, we need to train our breathing muscles. Your diaphragm is the muscle that controls your breathing. If it's weak or limited, it will affect how you breathe. Oxygen delivery to your brain and muscles depend on how you breathe. But our arousal level is also affected by how we control our diaphragm. So one thing that is very important for good respiratory effectiveness is breathing depth. Often people breathe too shallowly, which is countered by elevated respiration rate to get enough oxygen. But the increased respiration rate will also offload more carbon dioxide, which as a consequence will limit the oxygen delivery to our muscles or brain. And this creates this vicious cycle where we have low-grade elevated stress levels for a long time that never really goes down, which then leads to more shallow breathing, higher blood pressure, higher inflammation, and even more stress. So how can we train the diaphragm? For me, there are three main components: awareness, strengths, and patterns. The diaphragm's movements, so our breathing's movements, aren't as visible as when we move our arms. So you need to cultivate an inner awareness to feel your breathing. Awareness is often a neglected area because people think everything they see and feel is all there is. So they are trapped in their own perception. And what's even more, if you speak of awareness, many people would like to have less of it. They want to numb themselves. They want to numb their awareness to feel less rather than more. To me, this is a very rigid mindset because it assumes that awareness is just there, funneling the signals from this world into our consciousness directly without filter. But what if awareness is more like a complex tool that you can learn to control and master? When we sense our breathing, we have three dimensions to cultivate. One is the dimension of depth or intensity. So for example, when you feel your breathing in the belly area, You feel how your belly expands and falls. When you cultivate that, you can feel it better and more accurately. You can then also direct your awareness to your obliques or your lower back and sense your breathing there. As the movements there are more subtle, you need to have a better awareness. You can think of it like a spotlight shining light on specific areas of your body to see them more clearly. So some spots you have a very clear vision and you feel it really well. In other areas you need more practice to feel that. And then we have the second dimension. This is the wideness of your awareness, meaning how many things you can feel at once. It's like, can you feel the next category of something instead of just one focused area? It's like when you turn your vision into a peripheral gaze, where you widen your field of vision to take in more, but you have nothing in focus. So you can cultivate a feeling of your breathing 360 degrees around your torso all at once. With more practice, you can even widen this awareness and also expand this awareness vertically to include your ribcage and your chest. And the last dimension in our awareness cultivation is time. You can practice the art of noticing when you constantly change the scenery. You have to sit still and spend time observing your inner state or your breath without doing anything else. Certain things will only reveal themselves after they have had time to surface. And that's a very important dimension to take into account when you practice breathing or breathing exercises. So taking these three dimensions, if you would just change how you cultivate your awareness on breathing, you would already start noticing deeper and calmer breathing and resulting stress reduction in your everyday life. But the next steps will lift your breathing to even higher levels. Your diaphragm is a muscle, and just like every muscle, it can adapt and grow stronger with training. Many people just talk about breathwork techniques, but I rarely hear talks about diaphragmatic strengths. Poor breathing habits often limit the diaphragm's movement without even realizing it. And when we don't use a muscle properly, it weakens. So to maintain good breathing function, I need to train a full range of motion of my diaphragm. Yes, my diaphragm also has a range of motion, even though it isn't moving a joint. And I also need to add some sort of resistance to make it stronger. So what does this look like in terms of breathing? Let's start with the range of motion, or in other words, a full contraction of our diaphragm. Try to expand your inhalation as much as you can. Work slowly and use your 360 degrees awareness to sense the contraction of your diaphragm all around your torso, not just at the belly in front of you. To add some resistance, you need to work indirectly through the exhalation. Exhale into a hard balloon or through pursed lips to add resistance to the exhale, which will add some isometric tension to the diaphragm. As an easy protocol, practice this a few times per week for 5 minutes for 6 weeks to feel the benefits of a stronger diaphragm. Once you cultivate your breath awareness and diaphragmatic strength, your breathing pattern will already have changed so much for the better. But to me, a poor breathing pattern goes a step further than just your regular breathing. You see, your breathing reflects your inner state, more than just your oxygen demand. When we get nervous, before giving a talk for example, or something like that, we already notice our breathing getting tighter and faster. This is because, more than anything else, our brain is a great prediction machine. And it's the same for our nervous system when facing dangers, for example. Our sympathetic nervous system kicks in, our fight or flight mode, which already prepares our body and mind for action, even though we're just sitting there and waiting to give the talk. So we can train our breathing to remain calm under stress. which then will calm our nerves and also deliver more oxygen to our brain to think clearly. Therefore, we need to practice deep breathing also while under stress, so that we adapt better breathing patterns in emergency situations. And one of the simplest ways to train this is to take occasional cold showers. The cold shock from the water will immediately trigger a stress response, a pretty high one, and you will feel your breathing getting shallow and fast. Counter that by taking control over your breathing and doing deep, calm breathing. Over time, you will still feel the stress and the shock from the cold, but you can remain composed and keep breathing deeply and calmly, which then can also be transferred to other situations. Speaking of the cold can tense up your body, making it more difficult for you to breathe fully. So let's take a look at things to optimize your breathing depth and also take a closer look at factors that can limit our breathing depth. Your diaphragm is the major breathing muscle, but you can also make use of your rib cage to make your breathing deeper. By including the expansion of your ribcage, you can make your breath even fuller. That said, sequencing and awareness are important factors here too. Some people are chest breathers by nature or from poor habits or a lack of awareness. If that's the case, rather than leaning into even more chest breathing, work on grounding exercises like Qigong, mobility or yoga, or simply work more on deep belly breathing. Likewise, if you find yourself with poor posture or with a lot of tension in your chest and ribcage area, the intercostal muscles for example, you might not be able to expand your ribcage at all. Then you need some additional mobility work on your intercostal muscles, spine or scapula. To ensure diaphragmatic efficiency, you should move from deep belly breathing to ribcage expansion. So first deep belly and then ribcage and chest. So the right sequence is important. You can also do deep belly breathing and ribcage expansion simultaneously. But it is more difficult as you need to have a high vertical 360-degree awareness of your whole torso. So it's easier to have a wave-like motion from the belly to the ribcage to the chest. One factor that can lead to poor breathing is the wrong initiation of your breath. Tension, poor posture, or lack of awareness can limit our diaphragm's ability to contract. And as a consequence, we then transition to our throat to inhale. This also happens if we keep speeding up our breathing. At a certain point, we suddenly turn to shallow breathing. You can feel this too. You can place your fingers to your throat and do a fast inhale. You normally feel the contraction around your throat then. This contraction of your throat area will keep your inhale shallow. As the upper body initiates your breath, this locks your diaphragm in its place and limits its ability to contract fully. If you want to have deeper and fuller breathing, this is a clear case of wrong sequencing of our breathing muscles. Whenever you cultivate deep breathing, ensure that your throat remains relaxed until you reach the end of your inhalation. If you then want to add another sip of air, you can do so, but you wouldn't want to start your inhale with the throat. Use your fingers to feel if your throat stays relaxed during your breathing exercises. You can also listen to your breathing. Loud inhalation sounds are a sign that you depend on your throat contraction for your inhale. It may sound more dramatic, but it is in fact less efficient. Be aware of that, especially if you practice deep, vigorous breathing techniques like Wim Hof type breathwork or my Hormesis method. A good inhale should start very quietly and only get louder towards the end when you use your throat area to fill the upper parts of your lungs. So now you know all the parts that you should work on and exercise to develop and maintain good breathing function. And check out these videos here to learn more about specific deliberate breathing techniques. Thank you for watching. See you next time.